Hi, Recap Man here. Today, I am going to explain an American comedy sci-fi film called Cinethrex. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie's lead character is Dusty, an overweight, stereotypical, and careless man. He just thinks about eating and watching old movies. The world has changed as a result of technological breakthroughs, but Dusty is still trapped in the 80s. He dislikes using cell phones, considers texting to be a waste of time, and even finds emojis odd. He just has one fear, which is millennials. Teenagers who disagree with him on important issues irritate him. In the beginning of the film, Dusty is driving about eating a hamburger and listening to 80s music. He's 50 years old, yet he's carefree and doesn't work a full-time job. Dusty has lost all of his buddies as a result of this habit, but he couldn't give a damn. Shortly, a group of young adults catch him in the act and record him on camera. Dusty is clearly uncomfortable, but owing to his extremely awkward personality, he is unable to communicate with them. After some time, Chloe, his niece, gets in his car and they drive to the theater. It turns out that they've been watching films together since Chloe was a little girl, and they still do so now. Despite their apparent friendship, Chloe is clearly a little uncomfortable with her uncle, given their stark contrasts in age and lifestyle. This is made much clearer when Dusty starts playing an old song that she finds boring. As the uncle and niece arrive to the Cinethrex theater, they begin arguing which movie to watch. Chloe prefers to see Chosen, a Cinethrex exclusive 3D film, while Dusty wants to watch a classic 80s film that he has previously watched 10 times. And ultimately, the obstinate niece wins. Following that, they proceed to the ticket line, where many youngsters are taking selfies and texting. Uncle Dusty, as predicted, is disgusted by the sight. And to make matters worse, the movie tickets are so pricey that he doesn't even have the money to buy them. As a result, Chloe unwillingly pays some money. Oddly, every member of the Cinethrex staff, including the ticket salesman and the bouncers, has a strange, depressing expression on their face. Before entering the main theater, Uncle Dusty throws his 3D glasses in the trash and gets out his own clunky spectacles, which he calls to his shifters. He evidently hates 3D movies so much that he has brought these shifters to flatten them into regular 2D films. He even brought a pair for his niece Chloe, but as was to be expected, she isn't interested in wearing them. Dusty then goes to the canteen to purchase some popcorn. There, a group of young people surround him and ask if he accidentally entered the 3D section. Dusty only states that he is a movie geek before leaving. He walks inside the main theater and sees Zach, the handsome manager of Cinethrex, flirting with Chloe. Dusty comes up to them, but Zach makes an explanation and walks away. However, two of Chloe's pals show in at the same moment and sit down next to her. It turns out that this was her plan all along, and the movie with her uncle was only a way for her to get out of the home. Dusty is upset that Chloe is not spending time with him and that his chair has been taken by her pals. He attempts to get her to sit with him, but Chloe refuses. She has begun to think of her uncle as a boring guy who loves to humiliate her in front of her friends. Dusty is upset after hearing this, yet he still chooses to take a seat directly behind Chloe's. Shortly after, Zach takes the stage and says that the movie is about to start. He sets out the basic rules, telling everyone to put on their Cinethrex 3D glasses and to refrain from using their phones. The announcement has the youngsters hyped up, and they begin cheering in excitement. The movie, Chosen, then finally starts. The 3D action is so realistic that despite the love story's odd acting and plotline, youngsters are enthralled with the movie. At practically every dialogue, they shout and cheer. However, Uncle Dusty, who does not have glasses, is unsatisfied with the movie. He is really anxious to go home. Soon later, he remembers his shifter glasses and decides to wear them. Dusty is still unimpressed since they flattened the 3D into a dull 2D version, so he makes the decision to irritate the nearby people. As he notices one of Chloe's friends texting, he informs her that cell phones are not permitted in theaters. In fact, he makes a slight commotion, which annoys the other millennials. Finally, when Dusty still won't give in, Chloe asks her pal to put the phone away so they can enjoy the movie without interruption. Dusty is utterly unaware that he is humiliating his niece in front of her cool pals and thinks he has won. Dusty is more and more bored as the movie continues. He catches a pretty strange thing in one moment, as if the screen were broken. He removes his shifting glasses, but there is nothing there. Dusty, who is puzzled, wants to put on the Cinethrex glasses to enjoy a genuine movie. He begs Chloe to temporarily lend her glasses, but at this point, she is tired of her uncle's silly actions. She admonishes him sharply for making her seem bad in front of her friends and tells him to act normally. Uncle Dusty had no choice but to put his shifting glasses back on and continue viewing the film. Then, out of nowhere, he sees a huge, worm-like thing looking through the screen. The presence of this worm is utterly unknown to the youngsters in the theater, but Dusty is able to make it out. He instantly removes his glass out of fear as the worm vanishes as a result. In a little while, the worm is nowhere to be seen. Dusty surmises that his 2D spectacles may have played a role in the incident. So, he puts it back on, and the moment he does, the enormous worm sucker attacks him. In the theater, Dusty yells in terror and raises a commotion. Also, he spills his popcorn all over Chloe and her pals. The youngsters become enraged and begin to calling him names, but Dusty is convinced that something strange is happening inside the theater. He attempts to explain it to Chloe, but she, as predicted, is not interested. Instead, she feels humiliated and apologizes for bringing him here. The Sinithrax manager, Zach, is quickly drawn to the ruckus and approaches Dusty to take him away, to the pleasure of the other youngsters. Chloe also follows him out of concern that her uncle has gotten himself into trouble. Outside, Dusty attempts to explain that something approaching him from the screen. But Zach argues the elderly guy is just mistaking the incredibly realistic 3D action for the actual thing. Dusty, though, is certain that he spotted a thing resembling a worm. Finally, he makes the decision to seek a refund and leave the location, but to his disappointment, Chloe refuses to go. Instead, she reprimands her uncle for repeatedly making her seem bad just so he could be the center of attention. After saying this, she walks away from him and enters the theater again. Zach stops Dusty as he attempts to follow her by stating that he is no longer permitted to enter. Uncle Dusty, who is devastated, is forced to wait for Chloe until the movie is over. Zach, however, leads him to the projection room since he can't wait in the main hall. There, Zach and his staff begin discussing how Sinithrax's incredibly realistic cinematics and graphics will cause it to rule the world. Movies in 2D are a thing of the past. 3D is currently in vogue. Moreover, they encourage Dusty to give it a go and provide a money-back guarantee if he still doesn't like it. Then Zach offers Dusty a set of Sinithrax glasses, but after giving it some thinking, Dusty declines. As a result, the Sinithrax staff grow furious and abruptly transform into zombie-like creatures. They then attack Dusty, nearly causing him to collide with a sharp item, but the uncle manages to escape their grasp. How did he do it? He just pulled a rotting burger from his pocket and stuffed it into the zombies' mouths. Dusty then sprints to the entrance hall and tries to exit the building. It's not feasible, though, since all the Sinithrax employees have turned into zombies and are searching for him. Dusty enters the storage room covertly and gets ready to do the one thing he hates the most, texting. He sends Chloe multiple texts in which he apologizes for being a jerk and explains that he is afraid of losing her. Then he starts to tell her about the threat, but Zach and the others open the door and whisk him away before he can finish. Chloe has already begun to regret chastising her uncle earlier. She is waiting for his next message, but it never arrives. So when she sees his shifter glasses on the ground, she takes them up and puts them on. She suddenly sees a massive tentacled thing that has completely occupied the screen. Chloe is the only uninfected person remaining in the theater since the creature is also draining the life out of all the other youngsters. She removes her glasses in terror and attempts to flee, but every infected youngster starts after her. There is a huge battle, and it seems like there is no hope left. Fortunately, Chloe uses a prop sword to swat the hundreds of infected millennials before entering the projection room. She sees her uncle bound and tied to a chair and realizes he was speaking the truth. But before she could help him, Zach and the others show there and capture her. Zach then unveils the main creature responsible for all of this mayhem. It turns out to be an extraterrestrial species expansionist who has come from another galaxy. Zach claims that becoming infected was the best thing that has ever happened to him since he is no longer in pain or anxious. He also pushes the uncle-niece pair to accept the shift, claiming that the alien is merely attempting to help them get out of their sad and dull lives. After saying this, he forces Dusty to see the movie while wearing a set of Sinithrax 3D glasses. He'll reportedly become one of them as a result of this. Thankfully, Chloe steps in just in time and stabs the alien with a shard of shattered glass. As a result, the infected zombies are briefly stunned, allowing Chloe to free her uncle from his bonds. However, just as they are about to go, Zach lets out a tentacle from his mouth, grabbing Chloe and beginning to control her. In little time, her face begins to change, indicating that the alien has invaded her body. Uncle Dusty then gets an axe and cuts off Zach's head like an 80s hero, but the harm has already been done. The two soon arrive to the exit door, and as Dusty opens it, he discovers that a gigantic alien has destroyed the city beyond. He eventually understands at this point that aliens have taken over the planet. Chloe alters her attitude at the same time. She advises her uncle to accept change and the realization that there is no turning back. She continues by saying that Zach was correct, There is no suffering or worry in this existence. Suddenly, the other youngsters and staff members of Sinithrax show there and begin convincing him to embrace the change. To sway Dusty's decision, they even sing a song. Dusty ultimately caves and begins singing along to the song after realizing there is no hope. In the last scene, everyone enters the theater to watch the same film once more. Chloe offers her uncle a set of Sinithrax spectacles so he may accept the change and turn into one of them. Chloe is now fully possessed. As Dusty nervously awaits the alien's arrival and possession, the film comes to a close.